Today's episode is brought to you by AOS Kitchens, the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists. Welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. Today we have got Elky, also known as the Smoking Elk, joining us. He's talking about all things barbecue from his school, his partnership with brands like Thermapen, and his journey into barbecue and where he is now. So without much further ado, here's Elky.
Okay, so hello, Elky. Thank you so much for coming on talking to us today. For anyone who doesn't know you, first they've been living under a rock, but do you want to explain who you are, how you got into everything?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on this. Who am I? So, the Smoking Elk. Elky's my nickname. My actual name is Dan, but only my mother calls me that. So we go with Elky. But so a little bit of background, I guess. Obviously, I'm a bit of a barbecue fanatic. Love cooking with fire. Love cooking with charcoal. Probably been seriously into it for 6 or 7 years. You know, the normal history of having a barbecue, probably for longer than 6 or 7 years, you go through the normal kind of 10, 15 years of having a gas barbecue that costs £100. It rusts out over the winter, gets mouldy, and replace it with another one the following summer. So gone through that, cooking the sausages and the burgers and the butcher's packs. And I think really kind of got into it probably 6 or 7 years ago by watching things like Man vs Food, seeing briskets on there and pulled pork and ribs. And obviously, 6, 7 years ago, there's not really any decent barbecue restaurants in the UK, unless you want to go to the Harvester and have some microwave ribs or whatever. So it's a case of do it yourself. Either get over there, which is going to cost a lot of money, or do it yourself. So decided to do it myself, went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and here I am kind of 7 years later, a massive fire cooking addict.
And I suppose you literally do everything in terms of barbecue now, right? So you said you started just Man versus Food, seeing the briskets, pulled porks, but there's pretty much nothing you don't do on the barbecue now, isn't there?
No, I mean, I think what's something that sums it up nicely is when I tell some people that I cook on the barbecue all year round, they say, "Oh, so you eat barbecue food all year round?" And I'm like, "No, I eat food cooked on the barbecue all year round." There's a big difference. They think because you barbecue all year round, I'm constantly eating hot dogs and burgers and ribs and stuff. But cooking with fire, cooking on barbecues, as you know, it's not just about doing the classics. Anything you can do in the kitchen, you can cook on a barbecue with the added element of kind of fire, smoke, charcoal flavour. So I like to experiment. I like a lot of well cuisine. I like Thai food and all that kind of stuff. So and it works brilliant on barbecues. So anything you can do in the kitchen, I like to cook outside.
So when you were talking about obviously 10, 15 years of replacing your gas barbecue every year, as obviously a lot of us do, when you kind of really got into barbecue, what transition did you make from that kind of cheap and cheerful gas barbecue? What was the first serious barbecue you got into that was perhaps not gas?
So I think it probably was gas, because I've bought many from B&Q that were cheap and rubbish and nasty. Not saying anything bad about B&Q. But I think my first serious barbecue purchase, where you actually spend a bit of money, was a Weber Spirit. So again, it was a gas. Cooked on that for a while. I thought, this is good. I've actually got a proper barbecue. And then obviously then started watching those shows and started thinking, well, I need to start learning how to smoke something. So Weber Smoky Mountain, I'm sure a lot of beginners kind of go with. Went with a Weber Smoky Mountain. Had a few friends round for dinner. The main event was going to be some smoked beer can chicken. I was really excited, and I've put I thought that if I can't see lots of dirty grey smoke coming out the top, then I'm not doing it properly. So in goes wood chunk after wood chunk after wood chunk. And yeah, I mean, my guests were very polite about it. The chicken came out, I was all excited, and they all had a bite and said, they said, you can certainly taste that it's been smoked, I think was the polite yeah, it tasted a bonfire. So yeah, so the Weber Smoky Mountain, obviously Weber kettle, and then it kind of went on from there. But I think the real turning point for me was getting a Kamado. So as you're probably aware, I work quite closely with Kamado Joe now, but back at the time, I wanted to get a ceramic. I looked at Big Green Egg and Kamado Joe. Decided on the Kamado Joe, and I think just having one of them, and once you learn to use it, is a bit of a game changer for me, because once you learn how to use it, it made things easier. It kind of simplified things, and it made you want to cook on it more. And the more you wanted to cook, the more adventurous you got, the more you cook, and and it kind of spirals from there. So a little bit of a mixed bag, really.
And just looking on your Instagram, as you've said yourself, so many different types of food, because you can cook everything on a barbecue. Well, what are your favorite things to do? Is it to surprise people and show how versatile they are? Or do you have a certain kind of go-to that in your own spare time you like to cook?
I'm a big lover of Thai food. So I like to kind of do Thai food on the barbecue and maybe put a twist on Thai food. So I run a BBQ school, and one of the kind of things that I teach, I kind of do a Thai theme on one of the classes, like the master class. So we kind of do pad kra pao, which is kind of pork and Thai basil, which is a stir fry dish that shows that you can use pots and pans on a barbecue and stir fry. But then I do an over the top kind of beef massaman. So it's just a normal kind of massaman curry, but the beef shin sits over the top of the curry, taking on some cherry smoke, and then that all kind of, as it's cooking, it kind of drips into the curry, and then you put the cherry smoked beef into the curry and let it finish kind of braising until it falls apart. So just stuff like that, which is, kind of normal food, but with a smoky twist, and that kind of thing is a crowd pleaser. And then things like shawarmas and anything big that looks good, anything theatrical that people come around and say, bloody hell, how have you done that on a barbecue kind of thing, is stuff that I like to do, because it's all about the social aspects and a bit of theatre for me.
Yeah,
I couldn't agree more.
Also, you were the first person when I first started kind of doing barbecue on the Instagram and having a look at things, that was the first proponent for me for cooking to temperature as well. It was something that you were the first person to introduce me to that, and everyone talks about that now, because that's what people should do, of course. But thank you for that lesson. But anyone gets so much tips just from looking at your Instagram. It must be hard not to give away all of this barbecue school secrets while you're doing it.
I think I'm a bit of a sucker for doing that, really, because I'm kind of earlier in the year. I'm halfway through the year of doing classes, and I'm knocking out reels with dishes, with recipes of stuff that I'm cooking on the classes, and I'm thinking I should really do this once the classes are finished, and I change the classes. But no, I mean, touching back on using cooking to temperature, for me that was one of the game changers early on. And I don't know why, I kind of you discover this stuff when you start to barbecue, but not when you just cook in general. And I think I kind of got into the barbecue community, Facebook groups like Country with Smoke and whatnot, and one of the first things you pick up is get yourself an instant read thermometer. So I got myself a Thermapen, and again, it's a game changer, because it makes you a better cook. So you're cooking meat, and you're cooking it well, but because you're cooking at the temperature. And the funny thing is, when you do events and demos and stuff, you can use all the high tech barbecues and stuff. I cook on Kamado Joes and stuff, and you'll dish out a bit of chicken, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, how long did you cook that for then?" Or what barbecue have you cooked that in that's made that so juicy? And it's because you cook at the temperature. So that's one of the kind of first things, one of the first game changers for me when you do get into barbecue, is how important that is.
Actually, that's a really good point. You're talking about like the Facebook groups, Country with Smoke, and those types. So I'm a member of a few of them, like the Smoky Mountain groups and the Weber Kettle groups, as well as Country Smoke and things. And actually, still, the amount of people every single day that you go on and see a post, how long should I cook a brisket for? How long should I cook? And the point is, you shouldn't time it. You should be just cooking until that meat is at that temperature that you need to pull. But it is almost the first question, isn't it? Anyone asks, how long do I cook this for?
It is, yeah. But I think the main reason for that, I think supermarkets could probably do a bit more, and food packaging and that kind of stuff, because everything you buy in a supermarket, if you buy chicken or you buy a roasting joint, it's always cook it for an hour and a half per kilo, or half an hour per kilo, or whatever, plus half an hour. And it's like, where's the science behind that? They're basically going to get you to overcook that product because they don't want you to undercook it. So, but you'd think, if supermarkets just thought, start stocking some instant read thermometers, start kind of putting on the packaging, put the times on there by all means, but stick on the packaging. ideal temperature for this should be, 63 degrees or 73 degrees or whatever it's going to be for that cut of meat. And that's going to help educate people that, turkey's a great example. People don't like turkey because people eat dry turkey, because whoever's cooking it leaves it in the oven for half an hour longer than what they need to, because they don't want to poison Aunt Mavis or whatever, or Nan's coming around and we don't want her to drop dead, so we better leave it in for another half hour, or they cut into it and all the juices run out, and that's why nobody likes turkey at Christmas, because they're not eating it properly. They're not eating well cooked turkey.
I think the fundamentals are wrong in how we're taught cooking. So doing cooking at school, I even did like catering as GCSE because I'm food obsessed. And we're always told, right, chicken, you take it over 75. Well, how do you make sure it's over 75? Well, you cut it and check. Why not use a thermometer? They don't even teach that as the basics in school. So it's like a ground up learning that people need to re-educate themselves if they want to get the most out of cooking. But again, barbecue classes and things and learning and research will help people do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's I obviously run the barbecue school, and it's one of the first things that I teach at the barbecue school. When we do the master classes, most people know they use a Thermapen, they use an instant read thermometer and know. But the beginners classes, a couple of accessories that I show them straight away is a chimney starter, because most of these people that come to the beginners classes are used to cooking on a gas barbecue, and I ask them why they're cooking on gas. Oh, because it's quicker. I haven't got time to light charcoal. So you show them the chimney starter, you show them that it's ready to go in 10 minutes, and they're like, bloody hell, that's a game changer. But then you show them an instant read thermometer, and then when you're cooking the food and this food is coming off and it's cooked to the perfect temperature, you've stuck your Thermapen in there, your steak's perfect, your chicken's juicy. They're like, again, it's a game changer. And the thing is, Thermapens, they don't cost a lot considering. I mean, look at the cost of meat now. If you're gonna do something nice for Christmas, you're gonna get a turkey that's 50, 60 quid, or maybe sometimes even more. You're gonna get a rib of beef that's 50, 60 quid. For half that price, you get a thermometer that's going to last a lifetime and ensure that you're not going to cock up any other, any of your dinners and stuff. And importantly is you're not going to undercook it, but almost as importantly for us, obviously, you don't want to overcook it there.
No, and with Christmas coming up, perfect birthday present or birthday Christmas present for the barbecuer in your life, right?
Yeah, I think Thermapen have actually got some deals on at the minute where they've released a new Thermapen, so they've released a new, I think it's Midnight Blue Thermapen, because celebrate their 30th anniversary. They've been going 30 years, which is also crazy. I mean, I've been buying them for 6 or 7 years, and I remember like my first Thermapen, and there's been a few revisions since then, but they've been going 30 years and nearly 40 years as a business, which is mad. But yeah, I think they're doing some Christmas bundles with Genevieve Taylor, Genevieve Eats on Instagram, one of her books, along with Thermapen and the Curry Guy. I've met them both great people, both big fans of Thermapen as well. So and they've got great books. I've got the Curry Guy coming to the barbecue school next year actually, which will be good. He's coming down to do a few days.
Oh, awesome!
But yeah, no. So ideal Christmas presents, and if somebody gets it on Christmas morning, they're not going to cock up the turkey, are they?
Absolutely. And in terms of quality, I've had my Thermapens since 2015. Still works an absolute dream. I think I've actually still got the same battery, believe it or not, as the original. So they last.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a big cream one that I use in the kitchen. That my missus uses, because I don't really cook in the kitchen. I say I keep it in the kitchen, but if I'm not cooking on the barbecue, I'm not cooking. So my missus has got one indoors, and I've had for 7 years. I've got one in the barbecue shack that I stupidly left near some lit charcoal, and it's kind of I can't open it all the way. It kind of gets stuck kind of right angle where the bend is melted. Still works a treat. I mean, I've had them left out in the rain and all sorts, and yeah, they can take a battering, that's for sure.
So I also just want to you've mentioned the school, your barbecue school, a couple of times. I mean, that's a new venture for you, right? This is 2022 it launched.
Yeah, so I first had the idea for it. I mean, not the idea for it, there's other people doing barbecue schools, but I first thought, this is something that I want to do back in 2019, towards the end of 2019. So I was thinking about launching it kind of in the summer of 2020 at my last place. Obviously, COVID hit, so it didn't happen. And also, I'm not sure whether I was ready for it back then. I'm kind of glad that I waited till this year. I wasn't quite ready for it then. Knowing what I do now compared to 2 years ago is a big difference. The venue probably wasn't quite right, not quite big enough at my last place. My missus was worried about where people were going to go and have a pee. She doesn't want people coming in the house, which is understandable, especially if people have a couple of drinks and stuff, people coming in and out. So for one reason or another, it didn't happen then. And then I think, it all went a bit nuts with COVID, didn't it? And, the barbecue world in the UK seemed to just go absolutely mental. So I think, over those 2 years, it got to a point where, I do really want to do this school. I'd had a couple of good years at work, and I earned commissions, so sales-wise. And I said to the missus, a couple of years early, let's have a look and see whether there's any houses out there that we can move to that are maybe a bit bigger. And we found somewhere that was way above budget. Like we looked at one price, there was nothing there. Looked at the next price, nothing there. Looked at the next price, still nothing. And then my missus said, why don't we look at the next one up and see if we can put an offer in? And we looked and we found this house. And we had a look around it, and it needs a lot of work doing. We said we're never going to buy another doer-upper because our first house was a complete renovation job. But then we walked out into the garden, and the garden was absolutely huge. And as soon as we left the house, we just looked at each other and said, we have to make this happen. So, begged, borrowed and stealed, raided the savings and anything else. And we bought the house in December last year, and then went straight to work to build the barbecue school. Because I knew at some point this year, I've been busy doing the barbecue stuff. I've also been busy with work. And I knew this year it would kind of get to a bit of a tipping point where I either really knuckle down and concentrate on the day job, or really make a go of the barbecue world. And I think once the shack was built, we were kind of I was stood outside. We were filming one day with my videographer. We're doing some videos for YouTube. The sun was shining. We had a little half-time beer, as you do. And I thought, I don't want to go back to the sales job. I don't want to do it anymore. And I literally handed in my notice the next day. But I didn't actually talk it over with my wife. Because I tried ringing her in the morning and she'd taken my little boy swimming. So I just handed in my notice and told her when she come home.
How was that reaction?
She's like, well, if you think we can do it, then let's do it. So she's been good as gold. She's always supported. My decisions and doing the barbecue stuff. So that was kind of it. The barbecue school was built. It was ready to go end of April. Funny enough, the first class that I did was Thermapen. They sent the team down to support me for the first class because I do a lot of work for Thermapen anyway. So it's kind of nice for them to kind of be my first class, practice one, so to speak. Because I quit my job before I'd even taught a class, which is, borrowed a load of money to buy the house, borrowed a load of money to do it up. Never done a barbecue class and quit my job. So
fortune favours the brave, eh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm one of these guys. I'm very impulsive. If I get an idea, I just have to do it there and then. So I did it, and so far so good. Done 18 classes so far this year. Had to take a couple of months off in July and August because newborn baby. And October, November, I've had to take a bit of time off for family reasons as well. So to still do 18 classes in the time that I've done, bear in mind, we've taken some of the busiest months out of action. It's been really good, yeah. So, but I'm not one to rest on my laurels, and I know next year's kind of the big year to kind of really give it a push. But yeah, enjoying it so far.
Are you still focused? Obviously, you mentioned YouTube before that, and again followed your channel. And I know that during lockdown, you were doing a kind of video podcast almost, weren't you, with interviewing various different guests during lockdown. Are you still continuing to kind of work on your channel, or is very much all your efforts now going into the school?
No, absolutely keeping up the social media content. I think to make a success of this, you need to have a few different avenues and a few different options. If I'm just teaching barbecue classes, 3 times a week or something, it's soon going to get boring. Not boring, but because I like doing it, but you need a bit of variety, I find. Yeah. So I like to create the content. I like to make YouTube videos. I like to, do the reels and stuff on Instagram. I work with some fantastic brands, Thermapen, Kamado Joe, and create kind of monthly content for them. The show that we did was great, by the way, the lockdown barbecue show, because it's in lockdown. We could email it. Nobody could go anywhere around the world, so we could email anybody and, oh, can we have a chat? They're like, yeah, okay, because they're not at their restaurants. They've got no other. They've got nowhere else to be. So I said to I think we have Fat Sam Eats, a guy on Instagram. So, and I said to him, if you ever want to chat to any of your heroes, just start a podcast, start an online barbecue show. We're talking to like Stephen Reiklin who wrote the Barbecue Bible. Some of the people like Jess Piles, like some of the people we were talking to was ridiculous. I'd never be able to do it now without the lockdowns. But anyway, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. So the content creation is fantastic. I'm always going to be doing that. I like putting out YouTube videos, educating people that way, the classes, and then I also do a lot of events, so demos and kind of festivals and that kind of stuff. So I think next year I'll be out and about a lot more as well.
When do you get time to relax?
that is me relaxing. If I'm out there, if I'm out in the open with a barbecue with some food cooking away, it's not a job to me. Like there's a saying, isn't there? If you do something you love for a living, you're never going to work another day in your life, and that's so true. Don't get me wrong; it can get tiring. We did. For Kamado Joe last year, we did a pub in the park, and we did the opening one, and it's 4 days in a row. So it's Thursday evening, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are all kind of double days. So you have people come in at 11 till 4, and then it opens again 5 till 10 kind of thing. So we were there doing, we were getting there at 7 in the morning and going home at midnight for 3 days. So you're knackered by the end of it. I mean, I think we went to watch the Happy Mondays closing it on Sunday. And me and Jim only slagging. We could barely walk. I stood there and I had to keep standing from one foot to the other because they were aching so much. But absolutely loved every minute of it. And a week later we said we would have done it again. But funny stories from Pub in the Park. And you're going to put this out there, so we'll see if we can find out what really happened. But so on the first night we'd always put the pork shoulder on, ready for the next day, so we've got it rested, and when the first crowd come in, we've got this pork shoulder ready to go. We don't have to do loads of prep for it. So we stuck one on. We come back at 7 in the morning, and you can smell the pork butt in the air. It smells beautiful. So we go over to the Kamado Joe, and the first thing you check is the temperature of it, because you set the temperature the night before. You want to make sure it's still the temperature that you set it at. Yeah, perfect. Lifted the lid up. There's no pork butt. It's gone. And none of us have a clue where it went. We thought, because Weber were next to us, and so we suspected foul play. We suspected sabotage. So we said to Weber, "Have you nicked our pork butt?" They're like, "No, we haven't." So we've had a walk around the festival. Couldn't see anybody sitting there with pulled pork all over them or anything. Couldn't find anyone serving up pulled pork that day. Spoke to security. They said, "Are you sure Fox didn't take it?" Because foxes can lift the lids of Kamados and just take it. But it's gone.
They're cunning animals, those foxes.
Yeah. But no, it's gone, and it's a mystery to this day. So if anyone out there knows where our pork butt went, then let us know.
How do you save that situation?
We just had to. We were all hungover as well, so we got there a little bit later than what we thought, because we knew there was going to be a pork butt. We're like, we'll get that out first, and then it gives us a bit of time to prep for the rest of the stuff. But because it wasn't there, we had to just get stuck in and just get loads more food on as quickly as possible.
It's inspiring, kind of talking to you and about how you take that leap. But I suppose it proves that you don't have. There's the trappings of the day job that people kind of feel like they can't take these leaps of faith. But it's exciting to talk to someone who has done that. If someone was thinking about making a similar sort of leap, what sort of advice would you give them?
Go with your gut. I've always been one to kind of, if I get an idea, I'll quickly maybe crunch some numbers, and if I think I can do it, I'll just do it without kind of dwelling on it too long. Because if I dwell on it too long, then I might talk myself out of it. And I considered doing it last year, and I went to my employer and said, "Can I go down to?" The first thing I asked was if I could buy a holiday, and they said they came back 3 months later. They did some extensive research about how it works for other companies and stuff, because they were a good employer, and they'd always try to accommodate. And they come back and said, no, we can't let you buy holiday because we'd have to roll it out to the whole company, and then it just gets messy. So then last year, the start of this year, I asked them about going down to a 4-day week. And they were considering it. And then just as we're kind of going to take it a step further, they're going to advertise for a sales support person and stuff. I decided then that I couldn't even make it work doing 4 days. So I just had to make the leap. But if anybody's thinking of doing it, just make sure first and foremost that your bread and butter, that you can pay your bills. If all else. So I worked out 3 different scenarios. What I know I've got coming in, what I think I could get coming in, and then somewhere in the middle, the kind of average. Because I do content creation for Thermapen, Kamado Joe, and a few others, that's kind of that's going to pay the bills. Then I add on the BBQ School events and demos and stuff, and that makes it comfortable. And then anything else is a bonus. So just make sure that you can pay your bills, basically, and just make sure that you're definitely in a good place for it. You're in the right place for it, because it does look like a dream. You quit your job and you're now doing barbecue 24/7. But you literally are doing barbecue 24/7. Like I quit my job and I've never been busier. Because literally with the BBQ School, there's a lot of admin, there's a lot of emails, there's a lot of toing and throwing, and you're constantly thinking about plans. And so you kind of go from this day job where you switch off at 5 o'clock, can't be bothered until you're 9 o'clock the next day, to working for yourself and having to come up with a plan to make sure that the money's coming in, and not just for the next month or the next 2 months. You need to think ahead for the whole year and make sure that what's it going to look like at winter. Because obviously, what we do is very much a seasonal thing, and for the general public. So I knew that I've got till September to do my classes, and then it's going to peter off. Christmas classes, happy days. That's going to see me through to January, and so you just got to think ahead and think. There's a longer winter ahead where it's not going to be as you're not going to have as much coming in. So just plan, just make sure you can do it, and ultimately make sure you're doing it for the right reason, and you're doing it because you love it and not because you think it looks good and you think that you want a piece of that kind of thing.
Oh, I don't for a second think it's an easy choice to make, and it's just. Cooking barbecue in your back garden for your mates after a couple of beers on a Saturday is different to making a career out of it, isn't it? For sure. You've got to work hard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, cooking for your mates, I cook more now for content and for other people. It's kind of nice to get a break and actually cook something for yourself. But you do you go from cooking it because you're loving it and it's your dinner and you're doing that every day to literally cooking it for other people. So it is different. It's still just as much fun. Some people say that you can do it too much, you might burn out and stuff. I've not hit that stage yet. Hopefully I won't. But just it is a different beast. Of course it is. But if you do it for the right reasons and you love it, then yeah, I haven't regretted it one little bit.
So you mentioned we've obviously mentioned Kamado Joe, and we've mentioned Thermapen a couple of times that you do work for. How did those kind of partnerships come about for you? Was it?
So Thermapen was probably my first. Or Thermapen and Kamado Joe were probably quite early on. I think with Thermapen, that Thermapen are great. As a business, they're a proper family-run business. They just kind of get the barbecue community. They've got a real good community vibe. A lot of the community love Thermapen. They're always doing giveaways and various other cool stuff. So, as a company, they're great. Like I said, they're a family-run business. They've, Jason Webb is now the managing director. He's just taken the reins from his dad. He's got aunties and uncles and cousins working there. I believe his dad started the business nearly 40 years ago in a shed. And then obviously and now Thermapen. So I think it came about, I think I did one campaign for them where they were doing a giveaway and they said, could you cook something and then I'll do this giveaway. And we just kind of started chatting then. And I'm very much a relationships guy. My last job was in IT sales. I was an account manager. So I had kind of 5 or 6 key accounts that I've dealt with for years, built relationships with, go and take them for lunch, have a few beers. And I'm very much a loyal and relationship kind of guy. So to build relationships is very important for me. So, you know, Thermapen, over the years, we've built a great relationship, and, you know, I'm now lucky enough to be a brand ambassador for them, create content for them, do cool stuff like this, and other cool stuff for them. And the same with Kamado Joe. I think with Kamado Joe, I mean, I bought my first one, and all of these companies that I do work with I genuinely love the product and love the brand. You know, I'm not going to just, if someone says, "Here, oh, can we chuck you this grill and, you know, you show it off for us?" You know, I turn down a fair amount. Gas barbecues, for example, I always advocate cooking with charcoal, cooking with fire. And as you know, this gas barbecue company said, "Can we send you this like top of the range gas barbecue? We want you to be a brand ambassador." And it's just no, because it's not who I am. It's not what my audience want to see. So it's all about building relationships with brands that you love. Kamado Joe, I bought a Kamado Joe in the first place. I then bought a Big Joe, and then Kamado Joe, you see me cooking on it a lot, and they started up their brand ambassador program called the Fire Squad. I was lucky enough to be invited onto that. And again, just built a relationship with them over the years. You know, Ben is the global marketing manager for them. Me and him get on great. So it's just, you know, a lot of people ask, "Oh, how do you get sent stuff? You know, how do I get on the radar of somebody?" And it's just do what you love. You're working with brand, you know, using brands that you love. And if you're doing a good enough job, they'll come to you. And that's what it's all about. It's not, you know, they need to find you. They need to see you being passionate about, you know, their product. And I think that's, you know, that all the relationships that I've built, or most of the relationships that I've built, have come across, you know, started that way.
If you've been looking or thinking about an outdoor kitchen, then look no further than AOS Outdoor Kitchens.
They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.
Their extensive showroom is based just outside Bournemouth on the Dorset-Hampshire border, and as well as numerous in-store displays, also features a live outdoor kitchen where they cook every week on Kamado grills, pizza ovens, and all filmed and shown on YouTube.
They offer a wealth of knowledge on how to transform your patio into the most incredible outdoor dining area, with styles and options to suit every budget, and you can guarantee they will be able to create something perfectly suited to you and your home.
They stock and supply everything that you're going to need for outdoor cooking, including barbecues, Kamado ovens, pizza ovens, outdoor fridges, and every accessory that you would need to become the ultimate outdoor chef.
So if you want to make yourself the envy of your friends and neighbours, get in touch with them today to arrange a consultation and take the first step in transforming your back garden into the most incredible entertainment space.
Visit aoskitchens.co.uk. Yeah, I think that's, you know, that's a really important point about that and sort of integrity of it. I mean, I'm sure you've probably been offered a lot more things than we have, but there has been occasions where they, you know, "Oh, could you talk about this on your podcast?" Where it's like, well, we don't know who you are. We've never tried your products. We can't just openly go out and talk about them. You know, we need to feel comfortable to talk about those things. And I think what you've just said there is quite right. You can, I suppose, tell the people that are just in it to try and get free stuff, and the people that are actually in it because they love the products, they love the brands, and they just, the brand ambassador thing is probably the last thing they're thinking of. They just want to just show how passionate they are about using that brand and those products.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know getting paid to do this kind of stuff even existed. You know, when you're out there cooking on barbecues and stuff. I was cooking on the Kamado Joe a long time before I even started putting things on Instagram. It was only one of my friends. I started taking a couple of pictures and putting them on my personal Facebook. And a couple of friends said, "Oh, you want to put something on Instagram?" You know, just started putting it on there, not thinking anything of it. And, you know, it just spiraled and you know, you start working with brands and stuff. But, you know, I think early on, you maybe get a little bit excited. Someone offers you a rub and says, "Can you promote this?" And you're like, "Yeah, okay." You're like, "Whoa, look, I'm being sent all this cool stuff." But then it gets to a point, you know, you kind of need to know your worth, and you need to also know your audience. The last thing your audience want to see is you come across as a bit of an advertising board. You know, and if I accepted even half the products that get offered to me, it'd be like, "Oh, buy this, you know, and that's not who I am. So that's why I like to have kind of long-term relationships, and all in their own kind of sector, so to speak, so they don't overlap. So Kamado Joe's, for example, I'm never going to cook on another Kamado. because I'm a big Kamado Joe guy. If I rocked up and started cooking on big green eggs, people are like, Ford, you know, Kamado Joe's better than the big green egg. And now I'm trying to say, you know, the big green egg's better. Thermapen, I've been offered so many other different kind of instant read thermometers and, you know, other deals with thermometer brands, but you know, why would I? I'm working with what I see as the best company. And again, rubs, you know, there's so many companies doing rubs and stuff, and you know, it's great. I'll always try and support the small companies and, you know, buy some rubs from them and promote them and stuff. But you just got to be conscious of the fact that you just don't want to be every other bit of content you're putting out there is saying this rub's the best rub or this is the best this or whatever, because it's soon going to get boring. You know, there's a lot of people kind of you know, copy and paste, still doing the same kind of thing, and it's about kind of trying to differentiate yourself and just putting content out there that you want to make, and you know, that's what people want to see at the end of the day.
Also, I think like you can have much more of a personal relationship that way if you are only working with a select few companies, and it gives you a chance to go and visit them, learn more about the actual product, learn the science behind it, kind of have that sort of understanding. And it must be fascinating to be able to go to somewhere like Thermapen and actually look around and have them explain, well, it's not just like a stick thermometer, this is how it actually works. And surely that also leads back into your cooking skills then too.
Yeah, so again, back on the relationship thing, I was actually invited down to ETI, who obviously make the Thermapens. Went there last year and had a bit of a tour, and I just couldn't believe the place really. That, you know, there's a few industrial estates all in the same kind of area, and they've got 3 huge buildings within these industrial estates. So they're not just one building. They've got like 200 odd employees, and you know, when you think of the Thermapen, you just don't imagine this kind of. But I mean, they're massive. You know, they're big exporters of their product as well. So it's a British product, but it goes all over the world. You've got Thermoworks in the US that they're kind of very tightly linked to. But it was fascinating to go there. Yeah, I mean, seeing so many people there, seeing the factory, everything there was hand built. You know, there's no machines just knocking all this stuff together. Every single Thermapen and all of their products are handmade. You know, they calibrate them all in icy water to make sure that's how accurate they are. Every single one gets kind of hand calibrated, you know, in ice and stuff. And some of the machinery they got, I mean, some of it was top secret. They wouldn't tell me what it was. But, you know, this is proper precision technology, because they don't just make Thermapens. I believe, you know, a big market theirs as well is commercial stuff. So, you know, you go to the supermarket and they're baking their breads and all that kind of stuff. The chances are they're using ETI products. So, you know, the Thermapen is a great kind of consumer product, but they've also got this huge kind of, you know, commercial business going on as well. So, yeah, it's nice to go down there and see it all in action and see how the magic happens and meet some of the people there as well. Because, like I said, they're a family-run business, and most people there, you know, you can tell it's a good company because you've got people there that have been there 25, 30 years. And when you got staff like that, you know, you're pretty confident it's a decent company to work for.
Mm.
So for you, Elky, what's going to be your plans for 2023? If you mentioned school, but what else have you got lined up for next year?
So the school's obviously going to play a very big part. You know, I want to get it to a comfortable stage. I mean, ideally for me, I'd love to get my missus be able to come and work for the business as well. She might have other ideas, but we'll see about that. So, you know, building the barbecue school up, because, you know, this year's been good. I wouldn't say it's a success by any stretch yet, because it's very early stages. It's a new startup business, so get the word out a lot more. Because, you know, there's only so far my Instagram reach is going to take me in terms of getting customers on board. So trying to get a lot more local people to come to the school, because that's where your word of mouth is going to come from. So kind of concentrating on that. Getting special guests to come to the barbecue school. So I mentioned earlier, I've got the curry guy coming for a few days. Sold out 3 days in the space of like 24 hours, which was crazy. Wow. So trying to get some kind of guest chefs along that aren't necessarily barbecue, but can you know, translate over to barbecue, because like I said earlier, it's not all just about barbecue food. It's any food, just cooking it outdoors. So yeah, the barbecue school, carrying on making content. I want to carry on building my YouTube channel, building the Instagram, and I'd like to get out and about a lot more. So I'll be doing more events with Kamado Joe next year. Hopefully some more pub in the parks and the festival kind of vibe. And maybe another idea is, I'm getting asked from a few different places about doing barbecue classes kind of in Yorkshire or Scotland, or, places where it's too far for people to come down to me. Maybe kind of do a little bit of a tour and of some barbecue classes, but lots of ideas, and maybe start doing some pop-ups and stuff as well. Because like I said, I want to keep it varied. So if you're doing a couple of classes a week, you do some content one day, do a pop-up and do an event, it's lots of different things that just keep it interesting, because you don't want to just be doing the same thing over and over, rinse and repeat. So yeah, hopefully just getting out and about a lot more and meeting a lot more people.
You're going to give yourself a day off in that year, or?
Yeah, so I've got a rule, because I think the missus, I kind of I said to her, no, I won't be working like every weekend, and then it's kind of got, well, in the summer I might have to work Saturdays, but my little boy's off nursery on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I kind of said, if I'm going to work on a Saturday, I'll keep the Thursdays free. So we kind of still have the Thursday and then the Sunday. So I've given up my Pompey season ticket because because we're terrible. No, I mean I've had a season ticket for 25, 26 years, but it's got to a point. I love doing this. I love doing the barbecue stuff. I can't go and do 2 events, one in a month on a Saturday, and then expect to go to 2 Pompey games as well. And I've got, as much as I'd love to, but I've got a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old now, and it's good to spend time and do family stuff. So no, I do have days off, yeah, but it's just nice. But I also look forward to Mondays as well, because I'm the opposite now of how it used to be. I look forward to Monday because I get to go out and barbecue again, because I've done family stuff all weekend, and now I can go and barbecue on a Monday.
Oh, people love Mondays. What?
I know, it's kind of like flipped.
So one of the things that we hold dear on the podcast is talking about barbecue fails, and obviously a lot of people learn by failing, and correct their mistakes and things, and also a lot of the time they can be quite funny as well. So obviously you've put out some fantastic content, but you must have had some fails along the way. Is there any that you'd like to share with us?
I've one recently, actually. I think we call them fails and failures, but they're all lessons. And I always try and say that to people as well, because some people say, I'm not confident enough to go and cook a brisket. I'm like, what happens if I screw it up? And you're never going to know until you go and do it, and you're going to make mistakes. My first the first ever brisket I did was a complete fail. Went and bought. You see these briskets, you go and ask your butcher for a brisket, and you get this lean bit of flat. And I'm cooking a brisket. I'm going to do it. I'm like Man versus Food now. Like, and the first one I cooked was like a brick. Me and my 2 cousins still ate the lot, and literally were dying on the sofa afterwards. But then I did a brisket the other day, and I like a few beers. So I got the briskets on. The sun came out, and it was a ridiculously warm day for the time of the year. And me and the missus were sat in the garden, and it's kind of like we had a few more beers and then a few more, and the brisket was just an afterthought, and it didn't turn out that great. But they're not failures. If all else fails, just stick at the chili.
Yeah.
But and I burn myself all the time. I say at my classes, like when we do the filming days, I'll constantly reach over, burn myself, singe my hairs or whatever. I said if the camera's rolling all day on a filming day, I'll have a whole section of B-reel of me sounding like Michael Jackson. But we all make mistakes. I still make them now, of course, because we're all still learning. There's always going to be mistakes along the way. Just learn from it and put it into practice next time.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more. Is there anything else that we haven't spoken about yet, or any kind of questions or anything that you wanted to kind of bring up about, I don't know, the barbecue scene, you personally in your journey in barbecue, but is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I think we covered quite a bit. I mean, the barbecue scene, if anybody's watching this and they're just starting to get into barbecue and stuff, the barbecue scene is coming on leaps and bounds in the UK, and it's, I think, something I like to get across. And a lot of people myself included, you get into barbecue and you start watching these YouTube videos and you see the briskets, like the American style briskets,
Yeah.
USDA briskets, and everybody wants to replicate it. So people are buying imported briskets. They're buying Aussie grain-fed briskets because grain-fed has to be better because of the marbling. And they're buying USDA briskets that are coming over all these air miles over from the US. But we've got, and the general message you seem to get on the Facebook groups is British brisket's terrible. If you're going to cook a brisket, make sure you get a good one imported from America. And it's the wrong message to put across because, yes, a lot of brisket you're going to buy in America, over here is going to be no good. It's good enough to maybe do pot roast with. You can smoke it and then braise it. But if you find to have a good quality butcher, we got some of the best beef in the world. Why are we importing it from American stuff just to try and copy what the Americans do? Adapt to what we've got, that you can get some fantastic results from grass-fed brisket. I like to cook mine method that was called hot and fast. So you cook it at a higher temperature quicker because it's got less fat in it. If you cook it for 15 hours, because it's got less fat and less marbling, it's more likely to dry out. If you cook it hot and fast, you still get fantastic results, and the flavour of grass-fed over grain-fed is second to none. I'll take it any day. So I think, the message is stop buying imported meat. Just work with what we've got because we've got some of the best produce there is. So just adapt. It doesn't have to be all American style. Just use what we've got, use your imagination, and just put your own spin on it.
Do you know what? We've spoken to Genevieve Taylor, who echoed exactly what you said. She was, we released her episode in the summer as like a little summer special. When this goes out, there'll be an upcoming episode with Jack's Meat Shack, and we've got a butcher down in Kent. That's, again, everyone's replicating the same message, which is a good thing in the barbecue scene, that we're all advocates of using British beef and the quality of our British beef and not having to worry about importing, but also, like you said, the air miles, the environmental impact of importing that beef. So it's really good that yourself, you're an advocate of that, but actually all of these people within the UK barbecue scene seem to be, replicating that message that actually British beef is the quality beef that you need.
I think it's an important message, because you go to some butchers, some online butchers, and they're like Uruguayan picanha and Argentinian this and Brazilian that. Oh, that sounds fancy. I'll get myself. It's a Uruguayan picanha. It's a top rump. We've got it here. We've got beautiful grass-fed picanha here, and it's just about And not every butcher, some people are going to get a bit despondent. They're going to go to their local butcher. And a lot of butchers now, butchers are dying trade, which is a shame, butchery. And a lot of butchers, they just haven't got the capacity to bring in whole carcasses and butcher it to spec. So they buy in the kind of, the primals or the sub-primals or whatever. And so you're going to go in there, you're going to ask for something specific that you've seen in America or whatever. They're just going to say they can't do it. And you might get a bit despondent, but do a little bit of research. There's some fantastic producers out there, some fantastic butchers out there. It's about finding a good one, and once you've got that, a lot of them are going to deliver. It's not, it doesn't have to be a local butcher. My local butchers are, hopefully none of them are watching, but they're terrible. There's a couple that kind of, they're having a shop window there, put some rosemary tagged in with the lamb legs and stuff and make it look all fancy, so it looks like it's a nice expensive butcher, but in reality it's the same meat you're buying from your supermarkets and stuff. So just do a bit of research. I'd rather buy it, admittedly I'll buy it online, so it still has a bit of travel to do, but I'd much rather buy it from Cornwall and it come overnight than buy it from the States and it do all those air miles and stuff from the States. And, we're doing our own farmers an injustice by cooking imported meat.
I think as well, another great tip for anyone who's looking for a local butcher that they can trust is, first thing to look for is if they appear to be cutting the meat properly on site, buying in whole cows or half cows and actually cutting them, because so many places will order stuff in frozen and just sell them. If you can go in somewhere and you can see a huge saw in the back, you know that at least they're doing the basics. Then talk to them about what they can actually give you. And something I'd love to ask you as well, we've talked a lot about hot and fast method for brisket in the past, but no one's actually kind of talked about how someone would go about doing that. If you're a beginner, all they see is low and slow, and that's the first thing you get if you're kind of YouTubing. What should people try and do if they want to do a hot fast brisket?
So I'm not sure where I learnt the method, but I see somebody say, "Oh, you want to try cooking your brisket this way?" And having done my fair share of overnight cooks, pre-children, of course, and been out there with the head torch on and umbrella, and having sleepless nights with your alarm going off every hour so you can go and check on it, or your alarm going off at 3 so you can go and wrap your brisket, or your temperature alarm is going off all the time. I've done my time doing those. I've done too many of those. So when somebody said, I saw that you could do briskets in 6 or 7 hours, like I want to try that. And it turns out it works perfectly for grass-fed briskets. I buy mine from a place called Philip Warren Butchers. They've got their own farms, and if they don't use their own farms, they use kind of local trusted farmers. And they actually supply Smokestack. So Smokestack, obviously, a popular barbecue restaurant in London. If it's good enough for Smokestack, who is literally one of the best barbecue restaurants in the UK, then it's good enough for anybody else. So yeah, hot and fast. So you kind of get your brisket, you trim it up as normal, instead of cooking it at 225, which again just seems to be a magic number that's come across from the States. Everything has to be cooked at 225, otherwise you're doing it wrong. Cook it at 300 degrees, so 300 Fahrenheit, 150 Celsius. Probably takes about 3 or 4 hours to build a nice bark on there. And once you've got a good bark, wrap it up, and then you can even crank your temperature up to 350, which is about 170, 175 Celsius. And until it's finished. It takes about 6 hours. I normally start probing the brisket, after about 5 or 6 hours. Once my Thermapen tells me it's kind of 93 degrees, I know it's nearly there. That's the time I want to keep a closer eye on it. And then I kind of go by feel. So you kind of, you put your probe in, and if you can kind of hold it above it and then just drop it, and it kind of just flips, goes all the way through to the bottom with pretty much no resistance, then it's there or thereabouts. So 93 degrees onwards, they British briskets, grass-fed ones, normally come off about 98, 99 degrees. So it's quite a high temperature, but they can take it, and they come off nice and juicy, nice and moist. But the key to it is, if you're cooking it in 6 hours, you want to give it a good rest as well. So at least a couple of hours rest. But if you're cooking it in 6 hours, you get up in the morning, you do your brisket in the morning, get up, always aim to have it finished 2 or 3 hours before you're ready to serve it, because then you can just keep it wrapped up in towels in a cool box. And I've had them in a cool box, keep for 7, 8 hours before. So get up at 7 in the morning, stick your brisket on by 8. By 4 o'clock, you're all tucking into it. Happy days, rather than having a sleepless night and trying to do.
Owen and I've got our next experiment, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like I said, there's no better way of learning than just getting stuck in. You can read as many books. I mean, next to me now, I've got probably about 70 barbecue books and stuff. And you have a flick through, you see something that catches your eye, you give it a try, and then they kind of just sit there gathering dust. YouTube videos, a lot of the stuff you're going to watch on YouTube is American. So, again, people watch that and they see the briskets and they wonder why they're not replicating it, because we're copying what they're doing. There's no better way to learn than just putting in the hours, just getting stuck in, or coming to a smoking out barbecue school.
Nice. There we are. Funny enough, I was just about to say, where can people come and see you? So you just beat me to it.
Yeah, so the barbecue school is just outside of Portsmouth, so right on the south coast. It's a place called Cow Plain. It's at my house that was touched earlier. Got a huge garden, so I kind of built this 72 square metre shack at the end of it. That the missus was well chuffed about when we were measuring it all out and stuff. She's like, it's gonna take over the garden, but no, it doesn't. But it's a great space, especially when the sun's shining. I've got a beer fridge in there. There's the barbecue classes. They're normally limited to 12 people. So it's a good number. People come along, they eat a lot, they learn a lot. Well, hopefully they learn a lot from my limited knowledge. No, they learn, they eat a lot, they drink, we have a laugh. I try and put everyone at ease, try and get everyone talking to each other. Like I said, my background's sales, so I'm I'd like to think I'm quite good at kind of, you know, getting people kind of integrated, and you know, the reviews I've had so far have been about the fact that they felt so at ease. They felt like they've gone to a barbecue around of friends and they've met these new friends and stuff. So, you know, it's been well received. Hopefully it'll carry on that way. I've been delighted with how it's gone so far. So yeah, here's to next year for it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the podcast, Elky. And just quickly again, tell people where they can find you on socials, YouTube, etc.
Yeah, so obviously on Instagram under the Smoking Elk, and the same with YouTube. Just Google the Smoking Elk, and there's loads of videos on there. A lot of if you're into Kamado Joe cooking and stuff, there's a lot of Kamado Joe videos on there, but also some fire cooks and stuff. So YouTube, Instagram. I am on TikTok to try and keep up with the cool kids, but I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, no, just search the Smoking Elk, or my website's smokingelk.com, where you'll see dates available for classes. There's not many on there at the minute. So at the end of January, I'll probably release the first lot of classes for next year. So hopefully I'll see you guys or anybody watching on one of them.
That's great.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your time as well.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Thanks, Elky.
Cheers, Elky.
Bye. That's it for another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. Thank you so much to the Smoking Elk, or Elky, for taking the time to speak to us today, talking to us about his own journey, his barbecue school, and also Thermapen. It's been fantastic learning more about all of those things. Christmas on the way, why not have a look at some of those different Thermapen bundles for the barbecuer in your life. So you can find more about us looking at our website. You can Google Meet and Greet Barbecue Podcast. That'll bring you straight to us. Also through our Instagram, our Facebook. We've got a YouTube channel we'd love to see you on. And occasionally, like Elky said, with the cool kids, we're on TikTok as well, so keep an eye out for that. We also have a shop that we have various different affiliate programs and things on, and also you can buy some merch. So it would be great if you get the chance to go on there. It supports the podcast, and we could put anything that comes through that back into getting you the best guests. And until next time, keep on grilling. Today's episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast is brought to you by AOS Outdoor Kitchens. They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.